Hello, and welcome back to Comedy Means Business. It's July 21st, and our subject today is Joe List, a Massachusetts-born comic who first took to the stage 2.5 decades ago after graduating from high school and has been rising steadily through the ranks ever since. A prolific artist, List is coming off the release of Small Ball, his fourth comedy special in 5 years. Joe is someone who came up in the traditional way, building up from open mics to JFL New Faces and numerous late-night sets. 5 years after appearing on Last Comic Standing on NBC, he debuted his first full-length special, I Hate Myself, via Comedy Central, seeing it take off on their YouTube channel where it's amassed 10.6 million views to date. It was around the time of this special's debut that List fully came to appreciate the potential in going direct-to-consumer with his material, and in the years since, one short set for Netflix aside, he's gone full in on this approach. Harnessing the power of such platforms as X, Instagram, YouTube, Punch Up Live, and Patreon, he's delivered specials and other projects like his popular podcast Tuesdays with Stories, all within the digital space. Also a burgeoning filmmaker, List partnered with Louis C.K. on the narrative feature 4th of July and followed it up with a documentary, Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian. He released through theaters in both cases, and amid his experience with the latter project, elected to release his latest special, Small Ball, in theaters nationwide for one night only on May 21st, in a pretty unusual move. Joe is joined on today's pod by his manager, Chris Burns of Underscore Talent, giving a rare glimpse into the dynamic between a comic and his rep and how they've worked together to score wins for Joe amid an ever more crowded and competitive comedy landscape. Take a listen here as they discuss going theatrical with Small Ball, as well as what success in comedy today demands, from the perspective of both the artist and his representative. Joe, Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So, Joe, we got to talk Small Ball. Your new special has gotten, at time of reporting, 683,000 views. I got the sense that this is the most you've seen within like a month of publication on YouTube. Is that true? And if so, like, how are you feeling about the results of it?
I feel great. It's the most I've gotten on one that's on my own YouTube. My first special, which was on Comedy Central's YouTube, I think got 1 million in a week, and it was during COVID, and
Wow.
it was a better time. It was just a good time for everybody across the
So good.
country. Yeah, it was ideal. So it was ideal for YouTube comedy, but yeah, no, this is the best one on my YouTube channel. Certainly, it's been really fun.
I got the sense that like the last few months have been particularly kind of momentous for you. Like you've seen a steep uptick either in ticket sales or followers or something. Like, is that kind of the case?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the we had a movie that came out in theaters and did well. We had a special that came out in theaters and did pretty well, I think, and then it's going well on YouTube. And attendance has definitely been better, slowly, steadily. It's always hard to. I'm never looking at it that way.
Yeah.
I just kind of show up and go, "Oh, that was a good show," and this seems to be doing well. So, I mean, Chris could probably speak to that better, but yeah, I'm definitely seem to be going in the right direction very, very, very slowly, which is good.
In terms of touring, Tommy Pucciani at WME is Joe's touring agent, and he crushes it. He's been doing a great job and has been with us for a while.
Oh yeah, I love Tom. Tommy's like the best. He's awesome, and he knows just how to do it, just what I like. That sounds silly, but he always books me in where sporting events are happening that I want to go to, and he's the greatest agent in the history of agents. I say, screw you, Jerry Maguire.
I mean, Joe's his email subscribers, which I think is something we're tracking a lot more now, outside of like the algorithms of social media. He's gained thousands of email subscribers in the last 2 to 3 months, and his own personal YouTube page is over 100,000, and I think that's grown 10 to 15,000 at least in the last couple of months. So it's been cool to see it all happen.
I kind of imagine, Joe, that even as many years into stand-up as you are, each special might represent a kind of chapter in your life and maybe a certain stage of creative growth. Like, what do you think this special might say about where you're at in your personal, professional journey?
Oh God, I don't know. I try not to think about things like that too much or in any kind of grand scale. I just keep kind of thinking of things that I think might be funny to say, and then if the audience laughs, I keep saying them, and then I record it. I mean, certainly I have a child now. I referenced being a father in this special. Yeah, I don't know. It's been fun and good. I have this weird what do you call it? Like superstition that if I think too much or talk too much about process or thought process or any of the things, I just I'll lose my ability to write jokes. So I'm not sure what it says. I never want to say anything, but hopefully it says he's still funny.
Well, you're someone who's always worn many hats: stand-up comedian, filmmaker, reluctant podcaster. With Small Ball, you went the unusual route of releasing your special in movie theaters before self-releasing on YouTube, which nonetheless makes perfect sense given your creative history. But can you tell me about that decision and what sparked the idea to screen your work in that way?
Again, I wish I had some like cool answer where I'm like, oh man, let me throw this at wait till I drop this on you. But basically, we made a movie, and I wanted the movie to be in theaters. And this fella Richard Mattson, who's a fan, I think, and a film distributor, he said, "I'll put your movie out," and then also wanted to do stand up. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like something. And I think at the beginning, Chris was more enthusiastic. Chris and Richard were more enthusiastic than I was, and I said, let's go for it. And it ended up being awesome and really fun and exciting. I mean, other than the few hundred messages I got being like, "Who do you think you are? You piece of shit, you suck." But I got way more being like, "Oh, that was a great experience and that was fun." So it wasn't like a thing that I've always dreamed of doing. It kind of just presented itself, and I said, "What else? What else am I doing?" Again, I wish I had a more exciting or virtuous answer, but it was presented to me, and I said, "Let's do it." And it was fun as hell at the one I was at least in New York, and I think the LA one too.
Yeah.
I watched it in Austin with the production company that shot it, and it was awesome. I mean, the theater was packed, and it was just cool to watch Joe's special. I mean, it was 26 cities one night only, and I felt like it really created a moment around the special that is unusual. And like, unless you're getting a special on Netflix or something like that, it felt like this was a really special moment.
The other thing I ironically, or it's whatever, yeah, I think ironically, hate comedy specials and just think it's a horrible way to take in comedy
Yeah.
because and I felt that way even before I did comedy because you're watching an audience watch comedy, but if you put it in a movie theater, you kind of bring the being in a crowd back into it. That aspect comes back in. So at the one in New York at the IFC Center, it was hard to tell which laughs were coming from in the room and which ones were on the screen or coming from the sound system. So that made it really cool. So I do think it's a better way to watch a comedy special for sure.
It was also cool to see people posting photos and videos from their theaters or whatever city they were in across the country, about being in the theater for Joe's special. It was really cool.
You sat in a screening, like in the back, Job? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like secretly there or anything. I did an introduction and then we did a Q and not really a Q and A. Rana Hirschberg and I just did basically a podcast after because again, as I alluded to earlier, it just feels pretentious to do a Q and a on a comedy special. So basically, Ronan and I just went up and shit on each other for like 25 minutes afterwards, which was great fun. But yeah, so I went and introduced it and sat in the crowd. And fun fact, it's the first special of mine I've ever actually watched in completion.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be.
That's good to hear. I'm curious because you had gotten a taste of the theatrical experience before this with your documentary, right? Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian. It's a doc on a fellow comic and a longtime friend of yours. What did you both learn, maybe starting with you, Chris, like about that experience of releasing that movie and going through that informed your strategy in doing this?
We kind of did both at the same time, so I don't know that the doc really informed strategy. I think that with the doc, it was more traditional. It was let's release it in New York and LA and see how it does, and if it does well, it'll get picked up in other cities. And fortunately, it did well and got picked up. I think it ended up being in 10 to 15 cities. With the special, it was always a one night only, same time event, so that everybody watched it at the same time, because we wanted it to be an event, and we also wanted there to be a life on streaming and all of those things. So it felt like two very different strategies for both films.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, the movie felt more just that's what you do, or that's what you used to do, anyways. I mean, I came into this putting things in movie theaters at like the perfectly incorrect time because nobody, the last 30 movies I've seen in the theater, it was me and my opener. So it's a weird time to put things in the theater. And I always talk about this and reminisce about this. I was a kid in the 90s or a teenager in the 90s and a kid in the 90s. Um, I was age 7 to 17 in the 90s. But anyways, every movie you'd go to see, like I remember seeing Rushmore and it was like sold out. Like, and Wes, nobody saw Bottle. It's not like, oh my God, the new Wes Anderson movie's coming out. It was just a movie. Bill Murray was in it, so it was like, oh, and it was just packed at Saturday at 3 o'clock. So I wish it was still like that. That's kind of a maybe a different topic, but no, that one was awesome, and that's been really, really fun, and that feels more traditional to have a documentary in a movie theater.
There is a discussion around it. What is the future of movie theaters? Do we stick with what is traditional, or do we bring in more things? Do you bring in comedy specials? Do you bring in sports and arcade, like other kinds of attractions to kind of make these places work? Do you lean more toward the traditional side of, please God, just like let's keep it what it is?
Yeah, I hope that I love going to the movies. I love, cinema, but I'm sure it's fun to see other things there. I mean, they've done, I know, like music concerts and stuff,
Yeah.
and I want to give a shout out to my friend Derek Walsh, my best friend. He had the idea to play Red Sox games at a movie theater like in the 90s. I remember him saying that, and everyone was like, "What?" And they started doing that in New England. But I hope people keep going to the movies because to me, it's like the most special experience. But it's too expensive, and people are on their phones, and they have 30 minutes of commercials, and there's a lot of problems with it, obviously. And now I have a child, so I very rarely get to go.
Sure. I'm curious, like, what do you think is the future of comedy specials? I would assume we're not moving toward a world where you're going to see them all playing on a big screen. But having said that, I have heard since seeing what you've done with Small Ball about other people contemplating trying this. Do you think it's viable as an option for more and more comics to try their hand at that kind of release strategy?
I think so. I mean, I kept joking, like I'm the least successful comedian to have a comedy special in a movie theater. It's like Richard Pryor, Louis C.K., Eddie Murphy, and me. So to me, it makes sense. I mean, it's super fun, and as a fan of comedy, I would be thrilled to go see at a special because I want to watch it with the crowd, and I also think with phones. The only way anybody really honestly watches something is if they go to a movie theater. And even then, people are still looking at their goddamn phones. So it's just a better experience. So I hope comedians will do it. I think comedians should do it. And I don't know that that's the future for everybody, certainly.
Sure.
Um, I don't know what the future is.
I would recommend that everybody do it just simply, as Joe's manager, it was really, really cool to see people enjoy. Like, I wasn't at the New York. I was at the doc premiere in New York,
Hmm.
and it was really cool to see a thing Joe made that he wasn't actively making as people were watching it. Like I'm used to watching Joe perform and be a stand up, and I think like allowing a stand up to premiere a special in a room full of people and like all he has to do is sit there and watch or leave the room and come back if he or she is too nervous to watch, but like giving yourself that moment of appreciation with it as opposed to simply like putting it on YouTube or even other platforms you kind of don't may not know how it goes, and just putting it out into the ether and like seeing what people say. Like it's really a cool experience, I think, for a comic to get to watch a bunch of people appreciate their work in a theater.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, part of what I wanted to discuss here also is I'm wondering if you can take us inside the dynamic a little bit between a comedian and his manager. This sort of thing sometimes comes up on Tuesdays with Stories, for example, Joe's podcast with Mark Norman, but you very rarely see light shed on this kind of relationship, which is so central to a comic's career. First of all, how did you first meet? Do you go way back?
Oh, God. I've known you for 20 years, not 20, but 15.
It's been a lot. I mean, Joe and I was a comic, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
how Joe and I first met. One of Joe's openers is actually this guy Matt Wayne, who I've known since I was 8 years old. We went to elementary school together.
Wow.
Yeah, we've known each other a long time.
Everything in my life is marked by drinking and sobriety. And I remember being drunk at a diner with you. So I've known each other more than 13 years. So
Yeah.
I know it's over 13.
Yeah.
But yeah, with as far as us starting to work together, I had every manager I've ever had has quit the business. So they've all called and been like, "We're out." So I'm manager cancer, and then I had no manager.
Was that personal?
No, no, no. They all got better jobs or gigs or something. I don't know. I mean, it didn't help that I was making, 12 grand a year. I mean, I definitely wasn't putting food on their table. And then, so then I didn't have a manager, and I knew Chris was a manager.
Yeah.
So we met, and I said, I know you,
Simple as that.
and that's it. Yeah, exactly.
And Joe no longer makes 12 grand a year, so it's been a great thing. No, yeah, it's been awesome. Joe was one of the first. I stopped being a comic in 20, like the very beginning of 2015. I started managing at a company called AGI, and Joe was one of my first clients.
A manager's not going to want to rep every comedian they're friends with, I would think. So, what made you think of Joe as someone that fit for you and someone you really wanted to get behind?
Joe is like every comedian's favorite comedian, and I just felt like I can't believe he's not like more successful than he was and further along than he was, and I wanted to help him get to really where he is now and beyond. And I knew, we had talked at the time, I think a little bit of like what he wanted to do stand up wise, where he was with touring, how we could improve things, and also all of the other things he wanted to do. Like he wanted to be a filmmaker from early on, and all of those things. So that, I think, the fact that he was so, I think, I don't want to say underrated, but I think just had so much room to grow because he was such a killer comic. And it excited me that like he had aspirations in acting and directing and writing, that just kind of made it a no-brainer.
Did you know Joe would be as good though as he is at those things, at acting and filmmaking, like in the early days?
I mean, his to be as good as Joe is, like you have to have some pretty incredible taste. And he clearly had good timing. And like there's a reason why a lot of comedians have become either great actors or great directors or great writers. And it's because you're doing kind of all of those things on stage. And Joe's timing and material, like, I've seen Joe develop a bit from like the first time he's thinking about it to what it ends up with in a special. And it's like amazing the work he does to get it as funny as it possibly can be. And he takes that same kind of work ethic and taste to everything he does.
I'm emotional.
Chris, when we spoke recently, you made a pretty interesting observation that in today's entertainment landscape, comics that are the most successful tend to be those who understand that they need to be running essentially their own e-commerce business centered around their personal brand. And I'd love to hear you both speak about this from both sides, what you feel it takes to cut it as a stand-up in today's competitive world, but also on the flip side of that, what it takes to properly support an artist working in today's world.
It's definitely a different thing. I mean, I said for years my motto when I was in my 20s was like, if you work an hour a day, you're ahead of like everybody. And I would say that all the time. And now it's like if you work an hour a day, you got to quit. Like now everybody's working all the time. And part of it because it's just everything's content heavy in this podcast and Twitter and Instagram and Threads and all the stuff. I mean, I am always trying to improve as a business person, but I hate it. I hate everything about it. It's because I just always, to me, being a comedian, it was like beating the system. It's like we're not going to work, and you don't have to have a job, and you don't work, and you don't do anything during the day. And now it feels like it's just, yeah, you're like a CEO of a company and you got to have 50 people. You need a clips guy and a tour guy and a shirt guy and it's a lot, and it's so much. And podcasts, as you know, it sounds like you've listened to me talk about it before. I mean, I think it's not art. I just hate it. It's just bullshit,
I disagree.
and it's in the way. No, I appreciate it.
The movie podcast you did with Ron on, I wish you would return to because it's just phenomenal. It's such a great
Oh, thank
intersection
you.
of comedy and film. It's great. But go ahead.
Don't let Ron hear this.
Isabel Hagen, actually, one of Joe's good friends, wrote an article or a post or something about like what it is to be a comedian. I think she was more specifically about being a female comedian now, but
Yeah.
a lot of what she was talking about, and Jason Zinnemann has talked about this, of like how much has to go to not the art of it. And I think as a manager, your job is to do whatever you can to allow your client to focus on the art of it as much as you possibly can.
Right.
And I think like Joe is an interesting case because he rose to fame and success the traditional way,
Yeah.
with late night spots, a feature spot at Comedy Central, with a half hour special.
You're probably like the part of the last generation of people who came up that way, right? Where late night was as relevant as it is or was, and I don't know. There's been a change in the middle of your career.
Yeah, it's strange. And I was just a late bloomer on everything: Twitter, Instagram, Reels. I mean, I always joke and like I was still posting photos of sunsets and trees, like while my best buddy Sam Morril is doing a bus tour because of Reels. And I was like, get out of here with this crap. Look at these bricks. You know,
By the way, Joe still posts those at Joe List Photography. Just a quick
yeah, yeah.
on his Instagram.
I did start it because I'm trying to be an artist. God damn it.
But he succeeded the traditional way, and then I think was one of the first stand-ups to have a special on YouTube. And it was Comedy Central that was like, hey, we're gonna start putting specials on YouTube. And I think it was Sam and Joe that were the first ones. And obviously it was huge. And Joe's done a really good job, I think, transitioning to like first being succeeding the traditional way, and then transitioning to figure out how to do it in this new climate. And I think he's done a really good job of that. It's like, it's not just I guess there was a time when like all you had to be was a great stand-up and you'd get a late night set or JFL, and then there's a sitcom deal and all of those things. But now it's, you're a stand-up, you're a podcaster. In Joe's case, he's a filmmaker. You're a merch store, like you're all of these things, and it's a lot to navigate. And as the manager, you really should be like the COO and help run it all and make it like you should be like either finding the merch guy or the clip. Like it's, it used to be that you needed Disney or Sony or whatever to market, to distribute, to do all of those things. Now you just need one person who has an audience, and you can do all of those things yourself. And so as a manager, how do you enable your client to do that most effectively?
I wanted to ask you about this idea of going from a traditional sort of pipeline to direct to consumer. It seems like one of the things comedians have going for them in this regard is that people are used to, people are avid consumers of comedy. There's a real hunger among fans for this kind of engagement. But what do you think has been most critical, I guess, for the both of you in terms of pulling it off with things like YouTube and Patreon, making yourselves such successes going direct to consumer?
Yeah, I mean, there's plus and minuses to everything. It's like everything in life. There's benefits and takeaways, but it's been awesome because, yeah, before, I mean, I know everyone talks about gatekeepers in the business. Before, it's like you had to really impress one of 9 or 10 people to get kind of seen. And now you can do it with YouTube, with Patreon, with Instagram and all that stuff. You can make something and just put it out. That's what's so exciting about it. And that's what really kept me from trying harder to make movies before, is like, well, I'm going to write a script and then you got to pitch it to somebody and then you got to somehow get someone to give you
Yeah.
money, and there's no chance. But where stand up, you could just write a joke and go out and do it on stage. And now, because of the income we can make from podcasts, which leads to personal appearance, I had enough money to just make the movie I wanted to make. I didn't have to pay. And before that, I made Fourth of July with Louis C.K., who happens to have plenty of money too. So both movies I've made,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pitch to anybody. We just made it and then pitched the made thing to it. So to people and said, "Hey, do you want to play this somewhere or do you want to buy this?" So that part is great. It definitely helps. I mean, the down part is, sometimes you watch certain comedy specials and you go, "Boy, I wish we had some gatekeepers. This is the worst thing I've ever seen." So,
Yeah,
so you get more. The area is flooded more with dog shit and more competition, but at the same time, you can make anything you want now, basically.
right. What is your perspective on grappling with the algorithm gods? Because it's something that seems to torture many comics for sure. The kind of irrational and always in flux rules of that stuff, and never knowing if what you're doing is quite right, I guess.
I hate it. Matt, you're triggering me. I feel like you're taking knowledge and triggering me. No, it's awful. And then it changes. Whenever you figure it out, it changes. Hashtags are important and then they're not important. And then you got to show the face and it's the thumbnail. And then you talk to someone who's an absolute expert, but then everything changes a few days later. And now stand-up clips have dwindled amongst everyone. Like everyone's like
Yeah.
frustrated that I talk to that clips are down, there's less viral clips, and now it's front-facing talking bit. Now you got to like
Right.
do your bits as though you just came up with it while you're walking. And now it's funny, like HD is bad. Like you don't want to. Like everyone went out and bought black spider camera, whatever the hell they're called, the super camera, and now it does better if it looks shitty. So it's endlessly frustrating, and it's I gave up on all that, and I just can't do it. So when I have a clip, I send it out, and hopefully you get the people where you get them. And I just hope that the material and content speaks for itself because I just cannot live my life thinking about an algorithm.
Yeah, there was definitely a time when crowd work videos were all the rage, and comedians were able to go on tour because of crowd work clips that went viral. And then all of a sudden, everybody's shifting to crowd work, and videos that were getting millions of views are now getting 15, 20,000 views. And so you kind of and I work at a company that has a lot of more digitally native focused people. So we have people who their whole job is just talking to Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram to kind of stay on the forefront of what's working and what's not. But I think that also speaks to, getting an email list and getting like a name and a zip code so you know who your fans are, where they live. We really use that. Joe is on Punch Up, and Punch Up has a really good back end dashboard that shows you where your fans are and makes it very easy to email. Like when we did Joe's special in Chicago, he was able to email everybody on that Chicago email list, "Hey, I'm shooting my special in October, come out," and sold a few hundred tickets just from that. So, it's really about how do you move people from the social platforms to you directly so that you have a more direct relationship.
Joe, do you want to talk about Puncher was one of the things I wanted to ask you about because you've been very public about loving the platform. So I would love to just hear your thoughts about what it gives you and what it brings to maybe the comedy community.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great, and I'm not being paid to push it. I just think it's awesome, and it's like been so helpful to me. And Danny Frankel, I mean, I do feel like I owe Danny, who started the company, because he was on an episode of You Know What, Dude, like 15 years ago. We caused him to have a panic attack. Uh, he worked for Facebook, and we just said all the things you can't say if you have a real job.
Oh my
And
God.
he had a panic attack and left. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I feel terrible. Yeah, I think you can still find it somewhere. But it was
It
horrible.
worked out for him.
Yeah, it worked out great, and it worked out for us. But no, it's awesome. And I had a whole thing where I released my previous YouTube
Right.
special, and I said the C word, and so it got demonetized and kind of pulled out of the algorithm. And Danny's like, if you want, you can say anything you want. We'll never do that ever, and it's less algorithmic. And like you said, people can sign up for their email. We don't spam. They don't spam. You just get sent. Because the most frustrating part of comedy is so often I'll do 25 shows in 3 days in Atlanta, and then I leave, and someone emails me and goes, "When are you coming to Atlanta?" And because people just don't see, again, it goes back to algorithm. You post and post and post on Instagram, and just people don't see it. So it's a place where they collect emails and where they are. And again, we're not taking their information and selling it, and we're not doing anything else like that. It's just I find out where the fans are and a direct pipeline to them, and I can
Right.
say the C word or anything with, and it's not as algorithmic. And so, and it also links your stuff with your dates, with ticket links, and it's just been awesome. And Danny also personally has just been so helpful. Hints like I can't call the president of YouTube and say, "Hey, you know what I mean?" There's no one to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's been just awesome. I love it.
I was told something pretty interesting recently, which is that you really kill in terms of ticket sales on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. That struck me because I am a fan. I engage with your work all the time, but I mostly do that on Instagram or YouTube. Do you have any idea? And I'm guessing maybe this is a question for Chris, but like, do you have any guess as to why that would be the case, that your stuff really takes off on Twitter or X in terms of engagement?
I have no idea. I don't even know if I knew that, honestly. I hate Twitter, and I don't know. I did have one hugely viral tweet during the presidential debate, though, that got like 9 million views. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Could be.
Joe's has a really big fan base on X and Reddit. Like
Oh, okay.
it's something like because we're able to track like where people are clicking on links and things, like 50% of Joe's ticket link clicks come from X, and the normal thing for a comedian is like 7% or something. So I
Mhm.
don't know why it's so big, but it is. So keep doing X the way you're doing it, Joe.
All right. I still can't say X. It's Twitter. I'm a boomer at heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's Twitter, damn it.
I'm with you. You had alluded to 4th of July, this gem of a semi-autobiographical family feature you made with Louis C.K., who's a friend of yours. What has the work in filmmaking given you creatively that stand-up couldn't? Obviously, it's a very different endeavor in a lot of ways in terms of the team collaboration aspect. But then again, storytelling is storytelling, and that's something you are very well-versed in.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the two movies I made, Fourth of July and the Tom Dustin Portrait of a Comedian, they're both, I mean, they're both extremely personal, both involve my life, um, and friendship and real story, all that stuff. But they were two of the most fun I've ever had in my life. I mean, the Tom Dustin one, it was me and my friend Matt Salacuse and Patrick Holbert, just the three of us walking around filming my best friend and hanging out with them. I mean, the whole movie was just hanging out, and it was so fun because it was so small and independently done. It just felt like, the little engine that could or whatever. It was like, we're really doing it. This is crazy. We were pushing each other and just having the best time and thinking that was great. This is great. It's such a creative thing. And same with Fourth of July. I mean, that was like the happiest time of my life because we casted my wife and a bunch of my closest friends. And it's just so fun collaborating with people, and stand up we try as much as we can, like Mark Norman and Sam Morrill and I will bounce jokes, and Matt Wayne, my opener, and we'll bounce bits, and it's somewhat collaborative but not really, and it's more,
Sure.
it's very it's a lot of it's isolating, and I love it. But with the movie it was like, oh man, you did this, and what if you said it like this, and I just really like working with other people and collaborating and hanging out. I mean, with comedy, you end up hanging out with your opener on the road. It's kind of one on one. With a movie, you end up hanging out with three, four, five, six people. In the case of Fourth of July, which was a big ensemble, it was like 15 of us standing around telling stories every night or during breaks. So it's just super fun, and yeah, I love it. I hope to do more of it.
How did you find the leap from telling jokes on stage to screenwriting?
Well, I always wanted to be a screenwriter, but again, I mean, a lot of this goes back to my mental health. I just suffered with depression and anxiety and lack of self-confidence and alcoholism, all just got in the way. But my thing is, like I alluded to earlier, it's like with stand-up, it's easy to write stand-up because I know I can go do the jokes. I know I'm not wasting time. I'm always worry about wasting time. And with Fourth of July, I wrote it with Louis, who had said, he's like, if we finish this script, I'll make it. So it wasn't a matter of, are we going to be able to pitch this? Is someone going to make it? Are we going to be able to sell it? It was like, let's write. It's just easier to write when you go, when we finish writing this, you pay for the movie. And same with the Tom Dustin movie, which there was no screenwriting, obviously, but, and then screenwriting, it's not dissimilar once you go in. It was two comics kind of making up conversations, and a lot of like you said, a lot of the stuff in the movie came directly from real stories. And then I would say, oh, and then this person said this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lines in that movie that were directly from my real life.
Hmm.
And then you just get silly together. And Louis and I just have a very similar creative sort of thought process and sense of humor, I think.
Sure. I wanted to ask you about the New York comedy scene right now. You're a New York comic. What is particularly cool about it to you right now? Are there any standout clubs, for example, or what comes to mind when you think about what is exciting or sort of cutting edge about maybe about stand up in New York right now?
I don't know. It's strange because as I think about it, I feel kind of strangely removed. First of all, I've been on the road for a month in New England. And now with the baby, I'm doing less because my wife is a comedian as well. So I'm out
Hmm.
less in New York because I kind of have to let her sounds weird, like stay at home so she can go do spots too. So we're kind of balancing it. So I'm doing less spots in New York than I ever have. But I always think New York City is the best. And there's just so many killer acts. And new ones coming, and then you have to be ready to follow, Maddie Weiner or Jordan Jensen or Shane Gillis or Mark and Sam, and it's you're like, Jesus, I better have some bits here. And what's always special about New York is you can run around and do a lot of sets. It's not one club. The Cellar, I work the Cellar and the Stand almost exclusively, but New York Comedy Club is amazing, and they have 3 rooms now that are all killer. So there's a lot of great rooms, and there's always been a lot of great alt rooms. And then what's crazy about New York is Brooklyn has its own scene, and
Yeah.
New Jersey City has its own scene, and Long Island has its own scene. So there's a ton of people there, and there's a ton of comedy to watch, and there's still great hangs. The Stand and the Cellar, and I name those because those are the places I mainly am. There's always a good hang going on. There's always 20 comics there, which keeps you sharp and keeps you motivated, I think.
It's very interesting. I'm LA based, but I really need to get out and explore New York more in terms of comedy soon. So hopefully in the near future. But I wanted to ask for you creatively, Joe, what is next? It seems like you have at least one more film project lined up.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to make this documentary about Skankfest, which I've wanted to do for a while and never really said anything. I love these music festival docs. Festival by Murray Lerner, and then I always forget the name of it. The Monterey Pop
Mhm.
Festival movie and Woodstock, the 1969 movie. I just always loved those movies and always thought, man, I want to do Skankfest, but it's just such a big project, and why would they want me? And then Lewis kind of said, if I was going to have someone do it, it would be you. And I said, oh my God, I've been saying that. And so I'm hoping to do that because I Skankfest. First of all, I hate the name because you always feel like a psycho when you're telling anybody. You're like, I'm going to do this big festival. I actually we have family friends who are my grandparents originally met in church. They're church people. It's the son of a reverend, and they're coming to Skankfest to see.
Wow.
And he's like, they're like from Mississippi, and they're like, we're coming to Skankfest, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like humiliated. But anyways, um, so we're hoping to do that, but I'm trying to get funding for it because I can't spend. I spent $30,000 in this Tom Dustin doc, and double that on the comedy special. So I'm running out of money. So hoping to do that, and hopefully make a narrative feature at some point again as well. I'm always trying to get things done.
Do you think you will consider looking at making things at a larger scale, either still in the indie space or even in the studio space? Like, could you see coming to a point where you decide I'm gonna put it on the line and try to go for that?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of that. I have such I mean, this is where Chris would have to come in, I guess, because I have such low self. I just think no one ever is going to make anything help me or do anything. I'm a piece of shit. So, it's hard to imagine me directing, Spider-Man. Not that I would want to,
Fair.
but yeah, I don't know, but we'll see.
I think the thing with Joe is that like it hasn't, and maybe hopefully it feels this way to you, Joe, but it's like it hasn't been a roller coaster of ups and downs with Joe. It's just been like something that just keeps going up, and maybe it's not always as fast as he would want or whatever, but it's like it's consistently going up. And obviously he spent his own money to make this doc. On the new doc, we've already got people who are interested in investing, who saw the first doc and who are like, I love Joe as a filmmaker, and I want to help him make the next thing. And I think as he keeps making things, that's just going to continue happening from more and more people. So, whether he's going to make a large scale thing, like I think the scale of the things he makes are going to continue to increase as time goes on.
For sure. It's been interesting to see comics sort of drifting back toward film and television lately, given that for years, top performers have been reluctant to step away from really lucrative paydays on stage to play the waiting game on set for a few months. I talked to Nate Bargatze about that not too long ago, and he was touring between shooting, which is really rare, just because he would go crazy if he had to sit still. Has it been interesting for you two to kind of see that happening with people like Nate or Tom Segura or Shane Gillis?
The road for those guys, the road is lucrative for me. So I don't know what word you would use for what it is for those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Nate, there was an article that said he made $82 million last year. So him to do anything is a massive loss in money. That's what's tricky. I mean, and I've been having these arguments with my really successful friends for a long time because I've always been good at time away from work and downtime. But then I didn't know how much money they were making. I didn't realize they were making, $75,000 a weekend. And I'm like, oh, that's why you're not going hiking in Vermont.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that, those guys, it's tricky. I remember another very successful comedian peer of mine saying, if I took a sitcom, I would lose money. So anyways, but the road is also hard. It's hard to come up with new material. And now there's never been more pressure to do entirely new hour. Now comedy fans, God love them, I appreciate them. They've become quite finicky. If they go, oh, I heard that bit 6 months ago, or this bit's kind of like this other bit, or, oh, he's doing crowd work. They're very in the know now. So you have to have brand new material, and it's got to somehow be better than the last time, or they go, they're not as good as they used to. So I think a lot of comedians with big followings are probably happy to take a break from the road just to recharge and also recreate something that's not, the same bit. I mean, and Nate is just always creating new material. It's unbelievable. I mean, I guess I am too, but he's doing it at such a high level with so much pressure.
But Joe, I feel like with you, sometimes there's people who want to hear this bit that they like saw a little bit of online, or just want to hear that, or they've seen you do online that they want to see live. No?
Yeah, I think there are. I just let the negative voices, they're there.
You gotta fight those voices.
I know, it's hard. They're in my head right now.
Well, Small Ball is another really accomplished special. Please check it out on YouTube if you haven't seen it already. Joe and Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.